Good morning, everybody, or whatever, whenever you're listening. Yeah, good afternoon, good evening. Regardless, we're back. This is Fly on the Wall podcast. It's me, Justin, and with me today, I've got Boone St.Thomas. You are an album writer, producer, musician, and I found you, or you found me. I don't know how we came in contact, but got in contact through Instagram, and I was like, I'd love to talk to you because I love speaking to anybody that's putting out their own music and trying to learn about your process and things like that. And but welcome
Thank you.
to the podcast. This is my basement, and I'm happy to have you here. I'm glad you could make it.
It's a beautiful basement with some rad lighting and some
It's
well
dope, right?
placed toys and stuff. So yeah, no, it's awesome.
You got to set the whole mood. I mean, it's not as cool as what you've got. Like I need sound panels and stuff too.
Yeah. This
I
room
don't
is
know if I don't know if I actually need it, but I think they'd look cool. So
yeah. It makes you look more like you got your stuff together, right? Yeah, so.
yeah. It looks kind of like a teenage boy, teenage boy's bedroom right now. Got to have the LEDs that change colors, little things like that. But welcome.
Great to be
So I was listening to your new album, which nobody knows that I know is listening right now, that you have a brand new album out. And this is your first self-released EP, right?
Correct.
Okay. And it's called When the Sun Came Up. And it was not released in 2001.
No, little website error there. We fixed that the other day. Thanks for catching that.
Yeah, no problem. I was like, oh, I'm time traveling. This is awesome.
Yeah.
No, and it's an 11-track album. And I think I was telling you before we started, I think the biggest compliment I can pay somebody, number one, is that I can listen to it. That's number one.
Right.
Number two is that I can listen to the whole album from start to finish without skipping any tracks. And that's one of the, I love this album. It's really, really good. It's very mellow.
Yeah. Well, thanks. That is a great compliment because that was certainly the goal. I love albums and I'm a person who will look for new albums and look for top to bottom great albums and buy them on vinyl. And I appreciate that. I've always loved the art of making an album and sequencing of tracks. So that was the goal, even though singles are kind of the strategy these days. I just kind of wanted to do that. And it's what I wanted to release and wanted to try to make it current. And mellow. I mean, yeah, it was definitely influenced by this past year. And so some mellow kind of reflective things going on, but I had a great time making it.
It was awesome. Like when I listened to it, it definitely, it takes you out of that mindset that you're cooped up in the house, COVID type mindset. It's stressful. We dealt with an election that was interesting, and it just kind of chills you out. It reminds me of back in the day. I would put on like an old Cat Stevens album, and it would just play in the background. And over time, you learned the lyrics and you learned how the whole album went. But it reminds me kind of like that in the sense that you can just put it on and just chill, and it's just nice.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate that. It's that was definitely I was going for, I don't know, I definitely have leaned towards that folk singer songwriter style. Elliott Smith has always been a favorite, and Nick Drake and whatnot. But I mean, I don't know, I love all kinds of music, and I've experimented with so many sounds that I know it kind of goes in different directions. But again, the sequencing kind of became the trick, trying to find a sequence of tracks that would flow like that. So I'm glad it came across that way. Thank you.
Yeah, it turned out really, really good. Also, and I thought this was interesting. So you sent me a link to your website, right? Of course, my links have all decided to close, and now it's going to take a split second for it to come back up. But you sent me on boonestThomas.com, you've got an about section, and within the first paragraph, it said that you shared bills with acts like Richard Swift and Duran Duran.
Yeah.
I was like, well, hold up. What? Talk about how you got involved with Duran Duran. What did you do?
Well, it was just one of those, kind of things. It was fun. It was certainly really cool sharing a bill with them and meeting them. I was in a band at the time called Novelist that had, it was kind of, it's been a while. That our last full release came out in, I think, 2008. So yeah, it's like 13 years ago, quite a while. But
That's about when I started my concert photography. It was about
yeah,
13 years ago. So yeah.
yeah, I mean, time flies. It's crazy. But yeah, we were getting some pretty good traction, doing regional shows, and we had a PR company in Nashville. This was in Nashville, that was really behind us and liked us, and so they, set us up with some, bigger dates like that when got to open for Duran Duran at a show in Nashville. And Richard Swift that's actually a different story. He was such a incredible musician and songwriter, somebody who got to know and got to be a friend with more. That was in a different band out here called Bullets of Orange. Sorry, out here is LA. I'm in LA right now.
Okay, so you're no longer in Tennessee. You moved out to LA.
I'm here working right now. Yeah, I go back and forth. I've certainly spent most of my career, most of my time in Nashville. It's still, and I was actually born in Nashville, one of the few. Uh, so yeah, but I'm in LA currently for the work I'm doing, but yeah, it was on a different stint out here in LA. We were working on our second album, had a label deal, but that fell through because the label failed to kind of get up with the streaming times. It was when the business was changing quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, we actually were sharing a studio with Richard, and even shared bandmates, and would go do shows and stuff like that. And it was when he was doing kind of some of his earlier work, The Novelist, Atlantic Ocean, things like that. Yeah. So I've been fortunate to get to play with some cool acts and get to know some really cool musicians.
That's really cool. I just read Duran Duran, and I'm such an 80s kid that I was like, what? That's awesome.
Yeah, that was it was a fun experience getting to play that bill. It's certainly a great crowd,
Oh, no
yeah.
kidding. I can only imagine. There's been a few people that I've met that I can't make conversation with. And one was it was the Prodigy. They were opening for Linkin Park. And I had one of those moments where I couldn't find a word to say, and I hadn't smoked in probably 15 years, but I went and bummed a cigarette that day and just stood there and had a smoke, and I didn't have a word to say, nothing, so that was one of my moments where it's just kind of like, you just meet somebody that you feel is kind of larger than life, that type of deal. So for me to read that you were involved with Duran, I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I don't know how I would have reacted. I probably would have been a complete dork, but it'd have been all right.
I'm sure you would have handled it pretty well.
Good Lord. So you bounce back and forth between Tennessee and California. That's kind of a good idea, just for the simple fact that most of my friends that were in California, they've all moved to Tennessee.
Yeah. At the time that we came back out here, everybody was saying, but everybody's going that way. Like, I guess we went the wrong direction, for the times, but you never know. Like, it's I
still have friends like that were in Runner and Secondhand Serenade and all those bands. They're like, we're headed east, and I'm like, no, come back. And now they're all in Tennessee, and they're like, we might be coming back. I'm like,
yeah, there's no wrong way to do it. You go where the wind takes you at that moment.
Yeah, no kidding. So how long have you been a musician / songwriter and producer? And
I don't know, a long time. I mean, I guess when I was a kid, are we going back that far? Are we going back to
this is the origin story, is the beginning of Boone.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, did you have, okay, let's do this. Was there a school project they were like, we need you to write a poem? You're like, the heck with that. And you busted out a guitar and you wrote a song instead.
There was, I actually remember a creative writing class in high school where I had this, like, Tascam 4-track recorder. Of course, at that point, I was already experimenting with recording, and gosh, I haven't thought about this in a long time. How'd you pull this out? But yeah, no, it was creative writing, and you could kind of pick the form factor, and so I recorded a song, and of course I was so ambitious, and I kept, it was a 4-track tape recorder. I kept like dubbing down two or three tracks onto one, and making all these layers. It probably sounded like total crap, but it was fun. Yeah, I did that. I mean, that at that point I was already pretty well into music. Groups like Radiohead had really started influencing me, and
I love Radiohead.
Yeah, I mean, everybody does, and certainly did, at that time, kind of sort of like late 90s, in the early 2000s, that time. They were so innovative, but yeah, I mean, before that, I think as a kid, I was really into baseball. My family was like a baseball family. My uncle's a coach. My cousin now is a coach, and my parents like met at a baseball game. Like, it's just baseball. So I played baseball.
That's awesome.
But then it was hearing music like that, or probably the first one, like a lot of people, was, like when I heard Nevermind by Nirvana. I think I was too young when it came out, but when I first really became aware of it, it basically like it was like, okay, I'm done playing baseball. I'm gonna get a guitar.
Yes, it's time to get serious now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that led to school projects and experimentation, and I was off and running from there, I guess.
Yeah, when Nirvana came out, I was living up in Seattle, and my friend Tom and I, during the weekends, so I lived on an island north of Seattle. So we would be like, we're getting off the island because we're tired of it. So we'd get on the ferry and we would drive to Seattle, and we'd go find a good greasy spoon to eat at. And I don't remember if I was with Tom or not, but we'd stand outside of these venues like the Crocodile Cafe, and there's one called the Sit and Spin where you could actually go get a drink and get your laundry done at the same time. And but I remember listening to Pearl Jam and listening to Nirvana and just all these new bands at the time. And then that's when all of my friends decided, well, we all need to have a band. And so everybody had all these little garage bands, which I had no part of, because I still get confused with the guitar, and I can't carry a tune at all. So, to watch everybody kind of go through that and go through that little songwriter phase, and some of them stuck with it, that they did very, very well. And while others like me, they're the quiet photographer types now. So that's the direction I went.
The world needs good photographers. Visuals are very important.
Yeah, good photographers. You also need to get yelled at by the drummer of the plain white tees. Thanks for not taking his photo because you completely forgot. So there's lots of lessons to learn in everything that you do. Is the thing here. But that's pretty cool. So you knew at a young age you were going to be writing and playing music, and that's pretty awesome. And you've been in a couple of bands. How long did it take you? Did you start your new album project during COVID, or was this kind of like a thought beforehand, and it was kind of COVID that nudged you into it because you're at home?
Yeah. I mean, I think yes. I guess it's funny. Yes to both. I think I had a couple of the song ideas before COVID and before I started working on the album. I really started working on the album about a year ago, and finished it early this year. So it was a 7-8 month process. But yeah, it was I had several ideas for songs before, and then everything starts closing. We get told we're gonna be at home all this time, and I thought, oh, I'm just gonna use all the extra time I have at home to finally do this. I've been wanting to do it for a while, but projects. I say yes to so many things, and projects have been taking up all my time for years, and I haven't really taken the time to do any of my own music, anything I wanted to do, just for me, or just to have a message, and have a voice and get it out there. So yeah, I thought, oh man, I'm gonna have all this time, because we're gonna be at home. I better take advantage of it and do it. If not now, then when? And then it's it's funny looking back thinking that, because I feel like I did not have that time that I thought I would have. But I really made it happen anyway. I'd record, stuff early in the morning and then late at night. I have a home studio, but it's not, perfectly soundproof. So anytime I'm going to use mics, it kind of has to be in the evening when things are quieter.
And everybody's super quiet. The kids are put down for bed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, yeah, I put this out independently and had to pick a label name. So I picked Quiet Hours because I was like, well, that's when I recorded it.
That's awesome.
Quiet
That's
Hours.
awesome.
But yeah.
I'm glad you got it done. You're not the only one that did things like that. I spoke with Daryl from the Strumbellas, and he started a whole new project, while he was at home, and I spoke to him. He's really, really good people. And then Heather Evans. I'm just amazed, because it's not how my brain works. My brain works like if I can do a photo, I can see it, I can image it, and I can make it look pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas your guys' brains are like, I like these words, and somehow I made it into a song, and it's beautiful. And then on top of that, I don't understand what goes into writing an album. It seems so overwhelming. So the fact that anybody gets an album done, it's mind blowing to me. Let alone, like some of the bands that, get signed and they're like, all right, we need 6 albums in the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't do it. I could never do it ever.
Yeah.
So kudos to anybody that could do this, and let alone make a good album. What you did.
Yeah, I mean, I think the trick to that, and I've been a part, I mean, even though this is my first kind of solo release, I've been a part of a lot of albums. And I think the trick to that, at least for me, is, having a lot to work with. I mean, I'm kind of an early riser. I'd get out early and do, especially being in California right now, do hikes or, get out in the water on the coast. And, that's where I did a lot of the actual songwriting, where I'd kind of be processing things. I've been thinking about all the crap that's been going on in the world. Everybody's been spending a lot of time processing. And so, yeah, lyrics and melodies kind of come there, and then, eventually get back to the studio and start figuring out how that becomes the track. But quantity and quality. I mean, I probably, to get to 11 songs, had about 25 songs that I was working with, and tried to figure out what feels like 11 that go together, that actually, it's not too schizophrenic, but it's also not one note in the sequence.
I get that.
But yeah,
I get that. It's kind of like after I'm done shooting a concert, it's like, what photos go together and what don't, so
Mm-hmm.
I may have taken, 400 shots or more, but there's going to be like 12 that make it.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, great concert photography. I mean, this better than anybody. Like, there's always like that one shot that everybody really, that resonates with everybody, that's emotional, that's got the energy and all that, and you just nailed the lighting, you nailed the pose, all that stuff.
It's honestly one of the, I don't pick the easiest things to figure out how to do. Concert photography is not easy. I will never do a wedding because it's terrifying. And little things like that. And you could probably go a simpler direction. Landscape, it's not going to move around too much, or models, you tell them how to stand. Concert photography is very difficult because I can't halt the performance and tell you to stand there, don't move, right there, stop. So it's a lot of hit or miss. And I don't ever do anything easily. Even a podcast, you have to think of things to say all the time. It's not written.
Yeah. Well, you've got a natural knack for
it. It's another acquired, I didn't know it was going to be a needed skill in life, but here we are. But so are you taking a break after writing this, writing this great album?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, it's funny, like I hadn't thought about, because I do so much project work for other people, you kind of finish a project and then you're done with it, and then that's it, but when launching a solo thing and releasing singles and releasing an album, it requires, like, you're not done when you're done. You have to start promoting it and doing social media and all that stuff. So that's been new and required quite a lot of energy for me. Usually I get to just kind of enjoy it when I'm done. And so I think I'm getting to that point where it's about time to enjoy it. I'm going to get back to Nashville in a couple weeks and spend some time there, see family, see friends, maybe do a little work, but try to unplug a little bit. Yeah, but I am already, like I said, I had a lot of songs that I was choosing from, and I've been energized by the whole process. So I've got some new songs, and we'll probably start recording those in a few months, and maybe do an EP next time. I don't know if I'll do 11, for the next release, but I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Are you looking forward to live performances again, or is that a little nerve-wracking?
It's a bit of both. It's been a long time since I fronted a band. Most of the bands I was in that were successful, I was singing backup and playing instruments. Yeah, but I Carter, the producer engineer that I worked with on the mixes and mastering for this, every time I would go see him, he's got this great studio in North Hollywood, and every time I'd go see him, he'd say, "I got to get you playing, man. You got to get out and do shows." So I think I have support, and I'm not sure how I want to do it yet. If I want to start, small and do acoustic nights and then add the band thing over time. But I think that will be really fun. It's been a long time. I've spent just years in the studio. So it will be great to get back live.
Well, it's got to be a little nerve-wracking. I mean, at some point, it's kind of like I've stepped away. I haven't done concert photography it's probably been 6-7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know we've got festivals coming up, and I know that we've got all these a lot of people like you, a lot of indie musicians and artists that are putting out their own albums. For some reason, they all stop in Salt Lake City because it's like a secondary market.
Yeah,
which I don't understand why it's secondary. We're massive. And so they a lot of people stop through Salt Lake City. So I meet with a lot of these people, but it's at the same time, it's very nerve-wracking because you actually have to go out and do what you know how to do, but you got to get rid of that judgment in your head and how they're going to see me, that type of thing. So it's kind of like stage fright. And
Mm-hmm.
while I'm not singing, it's a different type of performance, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
call it that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nerve-wracking to think about. So it's I'm trying to mentally prepare myself for like the first performance. I've already set myself up for, I know the photos aren't going to turn out perfect, and there's a big learning curve. So, and according to a lot of my friends, like when you don't play live and you don't do a lot of things and you haven't done it for a while, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but that's okay because people came to be entertained ultimately. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of where I was wondering if that's kind of where you're at. Like, is there a little bit of a learning curve for that has to come back, and how are you going to handle that?
For fronting, yeah, probably, and that's probably why I'll start off small. I mean, I'd settled in as kind of a touring, and musician, doing backup and instruments and all that. It had been so long since I'd felt any kind of nerves. But it's funny you bring that up because like recently I've had to do like some speaking engagements and stuff like that, and it is like, yeah, especially in the we've all gotten so used to just being not around very many people. It's going to be just all kinds of kind of things going on in the subconscious and feelings that contribute to like whatever that experience is like. I'm not going to pretend.
I think it'll just be kind of like a crazy energy. That's just kind of how I'm picturing it. Is it's nerves, and it's it's just kind of that nervous energy, that kind of twitchy feel in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you just got to harness that and work with it. So
totally,
that's what I'm going to do, and then I hope for the best.
Yeah, and I don't know, and like the different kind of work I've done, whether it's like production work for labels that need different things, or films. It's like you get used to a lot of critique doing that kind of work. That's one advantage of doing that, is you learn to let go. You send your music. You're an artist. You send your music. There's always, you're not the final decision maker. So there's always people like with opinions that you have to kind of work through and take into account and make changes and so I don't know. I guess the great thing about live performance is that no two live performances are ever going to be the same. That's what's so beautiful about it. You know, you go out and you have a performance, and you know, there's going to be things that could have been better, things that you could have changed, just like the first draft of something you send. You know, like if you're doing a film or whatever, the first draft of some music you send, you're going to change it and make it different next time. And if you can settle into that kind of, you know, let go of the need to be perfect, I guess, then it gets a lot easier. So I'm hoping I can tap into that, but it'll certainly be different getting back out and doing it live versus kind of the safety of just doing it from a studio.
Yeah, like I think the first time I do an interview in person,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be very strange. So I started this because I have issues speaking with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to have a conversation with all of these. I've met some wonderful people and just don't have anything to say, nothing. So I don't speak to them. And then I live with regret. So I'm like, how can I speak with these people? And my co-host Adam, he was like, start a podcast.
Yeah.
You should just talk to the people that you've met. You should just do this. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. You know, so that my nerves are going to come when I actually, you know, have to sit face to face with somebody and have a conversation. I think it'll be all right. But it's definitely going to be different than speaking through, you know, a camera on my computer, you know, through a mixer. You know, I definitely want all the bloopers and the goofiness and stuff like that. You know, it's going to be interesting. So
Yeah.
but I'm glad that you're looking forward to getting out and tell them hello. And I'm glad you got this album done. Man, anytime you can take and make something good out of the situation we've been in for the past year, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. That's all we can do is try to, you know, look towards the future and, you know, make you know, improve things. I think it's great. The one great thing that's happened in this past year is that's been on a lot of people's minds. You know, a lot of conversations that were long overdue or issues that were long overdue have been talked about, and yeah, that certainly influenced some of the songs like First and Last or even Lovers, which has been kind of the one that's been sticky so far that people have been drawn to. Yeah, we're definitely inspired by kind of that thought that's been in all of our minds, or things that have been, you know, confronting us that maybe you know, we had ignored, you know, again, long overdue kind of conversations and things like that. But yeah, that was the goal, you know, try to make something good out of it. You know, that's life. If you don't make something good out of it, then you kind of languish.
Absolutely. I sat there for a couple months just kind of doing nothing. I was just kind of fading.
Yeah.
You know, and I think fading is a good way to explain that. Is you know, you either get complacent or mentally your health doesn't go in good places, you know, especially quarantine that long. You know, so yeah, no, I was just essentially fading away. So I'm like, I have to find purpose. I have to figure out how to do this. And, you know, I try to teach myself guitar and things like that, but it doesn't stick. This is sticking. This is giving me purpose. So so while you're making wonderful music, you know, I'm making goofy podcasts, but I'm talking to wonderful people. So
Yeah.
it's very contagious. As far as the social medias, you can be found on Instagram at Boone St.Thomas.
Boone.st first name. Boone.st.thomas. Yeah.
Okay. And then your website, boonesthomas.com. And I'll put links for this in the descriptions and everything. And also, I did notice you have a store on your website, and you can actually get the vinyl pre-order for like $25.
Yeah.
Of your album.
Yeah. You know, I debated putting a pre-order out or not. It's gone well so far. I'm glad I did. But yeah, I wanted to print vinyl because like I mentioned earlier, that's, you know, I love vinyl. I've always been I mean, since I was like 12 years old collecting vinyl, and before it was quite as hot as it is these past few years.
Yeah, it's gone ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's what, like, the lead time is crazy. I mean, some vinyl pressers that we contacted were saying 8 months to a year out for the pressing. Luckily, we found a really great presser up in Canada that
Nice.
is going to be able to turn around faster than that. So it should be about 3 months out. So it's I wish I could make it go faster, but that's the industry. They say they have a 35-year high demand. I think a lot of acts have been sitting on records because they didn't want to. A lot of acts want to be able to do a tour to support their record, so they've been sitting on it, waiting for COVID to be over before they release. We're going to see a lot of great music coming out.
There's going to be so much. It's just, this sounds so wrong, but there's this buildup, and there's going to be a massive release. Yeah, and it's going to happen probably within the next month or two. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to being a part of that. I mean, being a new act, I kind of wanted to get my stuff out before that big wave started. But it's great, and it'll be awesome to get on the other side of that and keep it going too. So.
Well, the plus and minus of it all is at least you're on Tidal, you're on Spotify, you're on Apple Music. You're literally, you can be streamed everywhere. It's not as nice as buying the whole album, but you can hear the music and you can hear what we're talking about. But I encourage anybody that if you collect vinyl, make sure you pick up his EP. It's the whole album it's really, really good. Like I said, at the beginning, it reminds me of putting like an old Cat Stevens album, and you listen to it from front to back, and you just enjoy it. And it's very mellow. It's very good. I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy for you. I'm so glad you got this done. I'm very glad that we had the opportunity to talk. We got to talk about your new album. This is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, Dustin.
Hopefully I will be in LA. I think next month or October. We're supposed to be coming out there for something. I don't remember.
Yeah, well, and things are happening now. It'll be a better time to come.
Yeah, things are happening. The ball's getting rolling. Everybody's coming back to life. But yeah, make sure you still wash your hands, everybody.
Yes.
Don't be gross. It's basic sanity. Be sanitary. Wash your hands. Don't lick doorknobs. Don't be a gross person. Be courteous of one another. And respect your boundaries. It's not over, but we can minimize everything. So, but
totally.
I appreciate you for coming on today. Nice and early in the morning. Get my day started off right. I've got a gallon of coffee in me right now.
That's the way it goes. I don't know when I became an early morning guy, but I am an early morning guy. So thanks for making the time for me.
Hey, no worries. And everybody, make sure you check him out on his social media platforms. Make sure you go stream him on Spotify or Tidal, whatever service you're using. And I will put links in all of the descriptions below. And until then, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you. Bye-bye.